car at the moment. I didn't buy my first car until after I got out of college. Fun fact there. We go to the spot. We go back to his crib. I get back in my car and go back to campus. Completely idiotic move. Driving back through campus, I think I dropped my phone. I'm going to reach for my phone. This is like 22-year-old me, 21-year-old me at the time. Pick my phone up, lights is on. Get pulled over. Cop comes through it's one cop comes out, goes through the car, he's got the flashlight. They're like, we just want to, make sure you're good. You were swerving and things like that. And I'm, trying to sober up, trying to be sturdy. I'm cool. So then his partner comes up, and his partner's like putting the flashlight in the car. His partner's like, yeah, can you get out of the car? Step out of the car, sir. So I step out of the car. He's like, have you had anything to drink tonight? I was like, well, I was out with some friends. We just had a couple beers, whatever. First mistake, you know what I'm saying? Basically telling myself. And mind you, I'm an African American in a college town at like 2 a.m. So he does the sobriety test, and I'm thinking I'm cool. They got me standing on one leg, doing the finger test and all that. And I get through everything, and I'm like, all right, cool, I'm good, get out of here. Like, everything's cool. He's like, yeah, sir. So I sit back in the car. He's like, sir, I need you to step out of the car again. Step out of the car again. He's like, you did everything pretty well, but your vision test you failed the vision test. Your eyes was kind of slow following. So I'm like, what? I'm like, I don't feel good. And I really do feel good. Like, I feel like I could have made it home that night. No problem. So he's like, sir, you're going to be under arrest for driving under intoxication. I'm like, wow. Like, driving under intoxication. DUI. Puts the handcuffs on me. Puts me in the back of the wheel. He's like, is this your people's car? I was like, yeah. He's like, all right, well, we could park it on this side of the street. It's like a little parking lot next to the bus station. They park it over there. And then they end up taking me to the precinct. It was like, we're going to give you another breathalyzer. If you pass, you'll be good. If not, then we're going to have to cite you for a DUI. So, bro gets the breathalyzer again, does it again, fail. Then that's what it was. And I had to call, get somebody to pick me up. I had to get my cousin to pick me up. This is Thanksgiving Eve 2015. Thanksgiving Eve 2015. So I'm sitting here like, okay, now I gotta go home and tell my peoples on Thanksgiving Day that their nephew got a DUI. The hardest conversation I had to have with my folks to this day. But never turned their back on me. Never turned their back on me. And, it was tough. I had to deal with that. I had to spend a lot of money. And again, I tell you, youngest man, look, ain't no drink worth that much money. I don't care. I got the Casamigos right here. Obviously, I put in a lot of pain with this. Ain't no drink worth that much money. It's not worth it, because the amount of money I had to pay, the amount of time I had to put in for that, to get that off my record, it's not worth it. Just be smart. Make smart decisions. Please, make smart decisions, because that part of my life was one of the lowest parts of my life. So then from there, right, I'm gonna have to charge my computer. So y'all just gotta bear with me, because I'm rolling right now. So y'all gotta bear with me. At that point in my life was one of the lowest points in my life. So I'm dealing with that. Now, mind you, this is upon graduation. I'm supposed to be graduating with my degree, my bachelor's degree in science and human performance, right? Excuse me, y'all. Science and human performance. And, you know what I'm saying? I'm supposed to be graduating with my degree in science and human performance, from West Virginia State University. And so I graduate. I'm on the midst of graduating. Again, I had me a shorty at the time. She lives in Kentucky. I'm living in Delaware. You know, when I'm graduating from West Virginia State. So at the beginning, at the midst of us graduating, I'm thinking like, yo, like why don't we just live together? Like I don't want to go home. You know, we've been rocking for this long. Let's just make it official and just live together. Her mom at the time is like not really messing with it, but I'm like solely focused on this, and this is when I get into the relationships part of this podcast. Is you know I've done a lot of things in my life that have you know, I don't say I regret, but I say that, you know, I've dug myself a serious hole. And one of them was I moved to Kentucky with my shorty, and I was living with her at the time, working at, you know, warehouse, working at, you know, this place, working at Rite Aid, working at all kinds of places. You know, just because I was so like I didn't want to go back to that environment. I didn't want to go back home where I had to answer all these questions and people questioning me because I wasn't, you know, you talking about a guy that was at a high school who was doing this thing, who was on like a pedestal, like everybody like looked up, and then like now I got a DUI, and now I'm, you know, I mean, I'm living with my folks, you know what I'm saying? So, um, I moved to Kentucky, and we're living together. It's me, her, and her cousin. And you know, I'm pretty much just being I'm just being a rock in their situation. I mean, I had no business being there. I was just young and dumb. Her mom was not for it. You know, shout out to her mom, such a strong lady, military lady. You know, wasn't really for it. You know what I mean? And it was just bad. We got into a huge argument, and then you know, I ended up leaving. We got into argument, I ended up leaving. I'm in Kentucky basically homeless for like 2 weeks. I'm living with people like coworkers. You know, one of my coworkers that I was staying with at the time stole my watch. And then tried to act like he didn't steal it. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm just kind of like, all right, well, you know, I got to fix my situation. And I met somebody and they put me onto an apartment complex, and I ended up getting a job at Kids where I bought my first car. It's funny that story. I went into Kid just because I was in school, you know, the first time I was going through school, and I got a little refund check. So I went to Kid to try to get a car because I had no transportation at the time. And the guy was like, "Yeah, you ever worked in sales?" And I'm like, "Nah." He's like, "You look like the kind of guy, like you got high integrity. You feel like you could, you know, be good at sales." And I'm like, you know, yeah, I guess. So I went to Kia basically um, looking for a car, and came out with a full time job at like 23 years old. So there was that. So then fast forward from that, I get my own spot. I'm in Kentucky, the most miserable year of my life in 2016. Mind you, my mom is going through her situation. So my mom is getting, you know, at this time she's obviously getting worse and worse. The multiple sclerosis is really at a peak right now. She's not responding, you know, to it how she used to. So like my people's just kind of like, you know, giving me updates, but I'm in my head. I'm like, you know, I need to do something. I need to figure something out, you know, because this ain't it. And I'm looking at my apartment. I stayed in a 1 bedroom apartment in Richmond, Kentucky, paying $400 a month, and literally had nothing in there but a couch, you know, a bed, and a few clothes. And I was just thugging it. Um, I was thugging it, and you know, working in a warehouse, I was thugging it. And I remember looking in the mirror and I said, you know what? Like, God, if this is going to be, if you're going to take this lady away from me, if you're going to do it, please do it. I just need to know that I need her to be, I need for her to be comfortable, so now I can do what I can do, because it was too much on my mind right at the time. So then I finally got the call. I'll never forget it. You know, they called me on March the 6th because my mom's birthday is March the 4th, and she died like 4 or 5 days after my aunt's birthday. So they called me and they told me they broke the news. And yeah, I was emotional, but I was at peace because I said, you know what, that's what I needed to hear. I needed to hear that she was good, she was in a better place, she was healthy, because for me it was like now I can do what I need to do. And the first thing I did was I took my resume and I reached out to every single coach that I had because I said I want to coach ball. I reached out to every single coach that I knew, and I made sure I connected with them, built my resume. There was a coaching convention in Nashville, Tennessee. I went down there on the strength of my family, on the strength of my folks. My Aunt Cheryl sent me $300. I went down there, networked, met up with Coach Sherm, basically spent the whole weekend with Coach Sherm, and yeah, we got right. And got out of that probably 3 weeks later, got a phone call from a school in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Then I got another call from Albright College and Coach Marska. Shout out to Coach Marska, and or Coach Winslow rather. And then from there I ended up at Albright College and got to Albright. Accepted the position. This is right after my mom had passed. Coached there through spring ball. I left Kentucky in April of 2016. Went down there, was coaching the running backs. Never played running back a day in my life, but I coached it. And then 2016 was there. 2017, we had a really good season. We was 8-2, and then was there for 2.5 years. But the one thing that I took from that whole experience was I needed to know that my mom was good for me to be able to move forward with my life. And she was the catalyst and the strength behind my decisions to get up out of Kentucky, because that wasn't for me. Anybody that's familiar with Richmond, Kentucky, and anybody's familiar with Kentucky, period, there ain't a lot out there. Not for somebody like me that grew up in the city. So yeah, I get the Albright, and the contract was for it was for $10,000 with meals. But if you didn't take the meals, you would basically it would be 10,000 with meals, or it'd be like 11,500 without meals. And for me, I didn't care about the salary. I was so used to being hourly, it didn't really matter. But the salary, I just want to play ball, so I was just like, yeah, let's do it. But they did provide free housing, which was cool. But yeah, they're making $10,000 a year, for 2 years. And obviously, Coach Marska, shout out to Coach Marska, who taught me a lot, especially about being a professional. He instilled a lot of things in me now that I use today. But that salary, you're talking $10,000 a year. You're talking, you got insurance. I still had my car. I still had a car note. Still had a phone bill. I mean, it took a village. It took a village for 2 years, because anybody, if you're coaching, if you're trying to coach, if you're trying to do anything, listen, it's not what everybody thinks it is. It is a very cutthroat, very hard financial decision as a professional to be in coaching, because you really got to love the game. You're putting in 80 hours a week. We're talking time and a half every week, with minimal pay, below minimal pay. I didn't even have taxable income. I wasn't making enough income to file taxes. That's how low my income was. But I was just doing it because I love the game. I was young, energetic. I was able to reach a lot of players. People, actually wanted to hear what I had to say. They actually respected me. And the thing that anybody knows about me is I'm integrity first. I live off of integrity. So yeah, I did that, and I was basically like, nickel and diming it, as a football term, nickel and diming it for 2 years. Didn't have insurance, didn't have a car, didn't have, couldn't pay for insurance at the time. I really, the only thing that kept me there was the free housing. They provided free housing, so shout out to Albright. But I was like, all right, now it's time. I'm done with Albright. I buried my bones there. Let's try to figure out the next move, get to the next level. Because Albright was Division III, then we get to Division II. So I go and seek out a job at Edinburgh University, which is in Western PA, cold as hell, in Erie, where my salary is lower. Like I left Albright making $12,500, which doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean shit. And then I go to Edinburgh, which is Division II scholarship ball, making 10 grand a year. Yeah, so there was that. Living in a little studio. I mean, this studio was like it was like an armpit. I lived in the armpit of somebody else's house. Um, and again, it's just about the love of the game, leveling up, trying to see what I can do. But it was the worst year of my life, financially, spiritually, emotionally. I hated everything about Edinburgh. It was cold as hell. I was miserable. The team was divided, and I still was me. I was still Coach Benny, but the team was divided. And I mean, the financial. I had no insurance, no. My tags expired. I was driving on an unregistered vehicle every day. Now, luckily, where I lived, this campus was right across the street, so I didn't have to drive far. But then when I did have to drive far, I was like, I literally got to do the speed limit because if I mess around and drive, too fast, I'm gonna get pulled over, and they're gonna snatch my car. Um, yeah, it was the worst year of my life. It was just miserable. I hated it. Um, and I appreciate Edinburgh for giving me the opportunity. But yeah, I would have never. If I knew what I was getting myself into at the time, I would have never went there, because it was hell. We weren't that good, and it was hell. So then it comes 2020, obviously the pandemic. I end up having to go back home, and I go to New York to, you know, hang out with one of my friends, my bros, for their birthday, and I meet a female out there, and we get to chopping it up, we chilling, we talking or whatever, and we end up linking, and it's good vibes, we chilling. I'm like, was she pretty? Like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's something new, whatever. But like the one thing about people in New York, like you gotta get it out there, and that's why like New York is like a second home for me, because anybody that lives in New York that's from New York, you gotta be a certain individual to be able to make it out there. It is not easy in that state. So the people I hang with, the fact that they can do what they do on a regular, I salute them, because like it's tough. That's a cutthroat state, and especially in like the city and like in the boroughs, it's cutthroat. Like it will chew you up if you ain't on point. So long story short, I go out there, I meet a female during the pandemic. I get out there. This is while I'm still at Edinburgh. I meet her. We're talking. We're kind of chopping it up. We're spending some time together, and then I remember I was over my friend crib, my brother crib, at the time. Shout out to Kurt. I'm at his crib with his lady, and he got, the reason I know Kurt is because of my frat brother Corey, my LB. Shout out to Corey. He introduced us back in 2016, and me and Kurt just always been locked in. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like me and him are like damn near like we might as well just be blood brothers, because we knew, it's like we blood brothers, but we met when we was in our 20s. I mean, it's like we just speak the same language. But Corey, who's like my closest friend, introduced us. So I go out there, and Corey's in Arizona at the time because he's working at UA. And they was like, yeah, man, Corey, we'll get you down here or whatever. So they end up flying him down from Arizona. And I'm like, they just flew this man down from Arizona. Like the ticket got to be like 600. And they just flew him down. Like, I'm like, oh, nah, I'm doing something wrong. And they talking about going to Colombia. They talking about going, here and there. And I'm like, oh, nah, I got, and I'm mind you, this is just me making my little 10 grand a year, thugging it. No bread, can't do nothing. I'm texting my family while I'm in New York. Can y'all send me something, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, this ain't it. I got to do something. Mind you, I'm in the midst of trying to like have a little small relationship. So I'm doing that, and that's when it hit me. I said, I gotta get out of coaching. Like I gotta get out of coaching, because I can't be in this situation with these type of people in this income bracket. I can't do it. So I remember the girl, me and her ended up getting serious. We was in her room one night talking, and I told her, I said, if me and you were going to work, I have to give up coaching. And that's what I did. I slept on it. I prayed on it. In November of 2020, I made a decision. I said, I called the coach and I said, hey, coach, I'm going to have to resign. I'm done. Hardest decision of my life because that's all I knew was football. And my players respected me. I had so many relationships I had built through the time. Shout out to Coach Sherm. Shout out to Coach Milo Austin at Elon. Shout out to Coach Pat Hill up at LSU. Shout out to Coach Bird, who was at West Virginia State. Shout out to Floyd, who put me on to the coaches convention. Shout out to all my coaches that I coached with, that molded me to be who I am. Yeah, I had to give all them up. I had to give all that up because it was the income. I couldn't make it work. So I made that decision. I gave up coaching and I said I'll just go work at a little warehouse, little IT spot, in Jersey, because I was living with my aunt at the time. And yeah, it was definitely it was weird them first few months, and then going into the new season and not coaching, because coaching is a lot of hours and little pay. And I was happy because I was like, I got so much time now. But in my head, I'm like, the one thing that really like defined who I am, I don't even have anymore, which was tough. But it was one of those decisions, and I made it, and it was what it was. But I was able to do a little bit more and provide a little bit more. But me and this shorty didn't work out, for reasons of, and this is anybody that is gonna watch this, that's gonna actually pay attention and see this, is for y'all. You always want to make sure that you're good with yourself before you jump into a relationship with anybody. Never jump into a relationship using that person to try to hide your insecurities. It doesn't work, and that's what I did. Not just with this one, but with my other relationships. Like, I was so not safe and comfortable in my own skin that I was using other people to basically cover that up. And that's not no fault of theirs, and they know that. I've apologized to them because they didn't deserve that. I wasn't comfortable with who I was. And yeah, it's the biggest thing for me that I've learned is like, now I'm in a situation where I'm comfortable with myself and who I am, that I don't even have to, I don't even like entertain it unless I know for a fact it's the one, because they didn't deserve that. She didn't deserve that. The females I was dating with in the past didn't deserve that. And it's just because I was so upset with who I was and my situation, because I was looking at too many people around me, and I just wasn't locked in tunnel vision on my situation. So basically, yeah, we ended up falling out, and it is what it was. I mean, she knows that, and all of them do, but they know, she knows that I still got love for her, and I, always think about her and all that. And yeah, I had to apologize because, again, as a man, you got to admit when you're wrong. As a man, you can stand on your principles or whatever, but you got to be able to admit when you was wrong. So then, for me, I'm kind of just slowly wrapping this up because I've been on for an hour, and I could go on even longer. But the main thing that I want to make sure everybody understands now, is that this whole podcast is just about me opening up and basically giving that platform to the people that have the similar stories. And I felt like that this episode in particular was necessary for me to do, because I can't move forward and let these people tell their story and not have why I'm doing this. I'm not perfect. I'm still growing to this day. You know what I'm saying? And I'm still trying to figure this thing called life out. But, when you come from something, when you've been through adversities, the only way you know where to go is up. The only thing you know how to do is grow, because you've been at the bottom. So you don't want to go back to that feeling again. I don't want to go back to that feeling again. So the only way my eyes know where to go and know where to look is up. That's it. That's the only where my eyes know where to go. So anybody that's gonna watch this, Anybody that's going to tune in from here on out for the rest of this term and this season, just know that the reason why you're standing where you're standing now is from where you came from. And the one thing somebody said, it was actually my ex. She was like, why you always talk about your past? Why you always, bring up your past when you talk about things and you get all hype and upset? I'm like, because that's what molded me. Like, my life wasn't, it wasn't the bells and whistles. Like, I am built from the people behind me, the people that know me, that have been in my circle, that have been in the trenches with me. And I'm built from my history and what I had to go through. And I feel like anybody that's went through anything in life, the reason why you even are standing right now is because those experiences. Because when people talk about losses, I say, yeah, that's cool. You can say you took an L. My losses, I turned them into lessons. I turned my losses into lessons. And my lessons is what got me to the point where I'm at now. So for anybody that's going to watch this, for anybody that's going to watch me for the rest of this term and this season, your losses were your lessons. And understand that you come from something, you built from something, and the reason why you able to do the things you're doing now and to have those experiences that you have now is because of the fact that you went through what you went through in the previous. So never take that for granted, and never and appreciate where you came from, because that's where you are, and that's why you are who you are, and that's why you're going to continue to grow. So with that being said, that's my story. I appreciate y'all for jumping on and listening. We're going to have a great season. I'm super excited to get more guests, talk some more life stories, sports stories. Please like, subscribe, Out the Mud podcast, on Instagram, TikTok, IG, Spotify, and Apple Music is coming soon. We gonna do it, and we gonna do it big, because I feel like this is my calling. So I'm gonna end it with a toast to y'all, to a great season, more guests, more conversation, and let's just up it, man. Let's up it, and let's get to this bag together collectively. I always appreciate everybody for the support, and I love y'all. Love is love. Follow me on Instagram, callhim.coach, because I'm a coach of many things. Coach of life, coach of football, coach of family, coach of faith. So I appreciate y'all, man, and cheers to a great season. One love.